Check, check, quick sound check. Can everybody hear us loud and clear? What's going on, Coach Paul?
I hear you loud and clear, Coach Jay. On CPI Thursday. Hope everybody had a
Thursday.
productive
Happy
day.
Thursday, everyone. Welcome to At the Buzzer, our market recap. If this is your first time here, the goal of this session is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity. We want to see how we can take advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. If this is our first time meeting, I'm Coach Jay. Been a coach at Topstep since 2023, and that is Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Coach Paul. I've been with Topstep since April of 2023. I've been involved in the futures trading industry for 4 decades. I'm here to share some experience, knowledge, and hopefully help you become a better trader.
So thank you for that, Coach Paul. You are all our chat, our audience. Thank you for joining us today, as you do every day. Appreciate you being here and couldn't do the show without you. And shout out to Bruno. Bruno, thank you for joining with us here, helping us moderate this thing, sending over the questions, putting out the riffraff, and doing your thing. Thank you, Bruno. All right, let's get into it. Let us know how you did in the chat today. Were you up on the day, down on the day? Did you follow your plans today? And we will get into the markets. We had some data out today. Initial jobless claims came in at 263,000. Forecast was 235. Prior was 237,000. We know that the jobs data is kind of taking center stage right now as far as numbers go. We also did have CPI come in year over year, came in line with expectations, 2.9%. Forecast was 2.9. CPI month over month came in at 0.4%. Forecast was 0.3. Core CPI year over year came in line with expectations as well, 3.1%. And core CPI month over month, again, in line with expectations at 0.3%. The ECB kept their rates the same. We know we have a Fed rate decision coming up next week, expecting a 25 basis point cut, potentially pricing in another basis point cut, another rate cut in December. Coach Paul, anything you got on the news?
Nothing big that happened. Everything was in line almost too perfectly. Makes me question. But it's what the market needed to see. And there was no drama attached to these numbers. So we move on.
No drama at all. I think all the drama is going to happen September 17th. We were looking for that drama. September 17th, that Fed rate cut is going to be an interesting day for sure. We also did have Adobe earnings come out here. Revenue came in 5.99 billion. Estimate was 5.91. Adjusted earnings per share came in at $5.31. Estimates was $5.18. So it looks like they beat on both of those as well. Shout out to Adobe and all the creatives using the Adobe suite. All right, let's get into these charts. Why don't we, Coach Paul? We got 36 different markets we can trade with Topstep accounts. And today, to the downside, we had crude oil down 2.17%, heating oil down 2.39%, and natural gas, our biggest percentage mover to the downside, down 3.7%. To the upside, we had the Russell up 1.73%, the Nikkei up 1.92%, and micro Ethereum futures, our biggest percentage mover to the upside, up 2.43%. Talk about our big four. We already had crude oil down 2.17. We have the S&P making new all-time highs. What was that all-time high in the S&P? 6,600 even. 6,600 even. Our new all-time high in the S&Ps. There were 600 contracts sitting up there. I'm curious to see how many of those actually traded out. Take a look in a second. We have gold down 0.21%. The NASDAQ up 0.56%. Still not able to take out that all-time high in the NASDAQ. What is holding tech back? Why can't we do it? Someone save the NASDAQ. Taking a look at an S&P chart here, Coach Paul, on a daily, what are we looking at?
Well, the oft repeated onward and upward, all-time high, finishing at the top, near the top of the day, higher highs, higher lows, onward and upward. That's the pure definition of an upward trend. How about yourself?
Yeah, continuing higher. So what I am looking at is today's the first day, I think, in a little while that we made an all-time high and didn't just immediately reject it, right? Where it was that slow grind the entire time. I think there were a couple trades taken on the show today that traders were maybe looking for that, but sometimes what we're looking for, what the market presenting, uh, doesn't align here. So 6,600 not going to be a easy level to get through, right? We'd imagine that there's going to be a decent amount of volume that is trading up at that level. 12 whole contracts traded at 6,600 even. Found the last buyer for
The
now,
last or someone painting the tape. They had to
right?
try it. Someone had to do it.
Someone had to do it. We needed to get MP there and trade 66 contracts of the S&P and just buy them. See if we can get through that order because there was a ton of size up there. There was I remember correctly, it was about 500, 600 contracts sitting at 6,600 evens. All right, let's go down to a shorter time frame. Take a look at the 30. We know last night we had the sorry, this morning we had the inflation data. Uh, talked about it yesterday. How much price action do we really expect to see before this data comes out, especially in the overnight session? But a decent trade, actually an urgency trade, Coach Paul, on this 30-minute. And if your stop went on the other side of this opening range and you gave it a little bit of space, you survived that jobless claims CPI candle. Now, I don't know if that's a risk you're willing to take into that number, but
Well,
prices, yeah, probably not.
it does give you a good idea of the direction. There was urgency last night. All right. So on that VWAP, did anything change the direction
Nope.
of VWAP?
I
Every
put it higher.
every break was bought according to VWAP. If we just removed the candles and the drama, that's non-dramatic, like a snake moving up.
Yep. Uh, just consistent buying. Let's go down to a shorter time frame and take a look again. This zone that we have marked out down here is that first 30-minute opening range. Coach Paul and I look at that pretty much every day. We came dipped right into it and immediately bought up by the dip. Uh, by the dip, is this a J trade of all J trades here? Off that CPI candle, we close above it, and we just continue to run. Really nice trade here. Really nice trade. I had kind of a back and forth day to day. Ended down the day just a couple of points. Um, but all of my trades for the most part were buying, right? And in this case, we closed above, and that was a pretty nice buy. That happened, 20 minutes after the open, and again, just consistent buying in the S&P. Looked a lot different than the. Billy says, "Don't know why I didn't see this in real time." Were you looking? Were you looking for something else? Were you maybe holding on to a bias of something that kind of kept you from seeing what the markets were saying? It's why we review it all the time, Billy, just to so we can make these reads in more real time. Uh, but setting the table for what the market has the potential to present, and then executing it is really where we want to be. But hey, if you didn't catch this one, guess what? We got Michigan sentiment tomorrow. There's another opportunity to catch a move off of some news volatility. Coach Paul, anything else you want to say about this S&P chart here on the shorter time
Well,
frame?
you did no, it was a lot different on a 3-minute than the Nasdaq.
Oh yeah,
So if you were watching Nasdaq, S&P was a different animal. So and so was our old friend Rusty.
I
But
think it's time to do it. We haven't done this in a little while.
ah, there we go.
S&Ps on the top left. We'll go Nasdaq on the top right. Put the Dow on the bottom left and the Russell on the bottom right. Clear up some of these drawings here. These are completely different markets. What is
Yeah.
what is the Nasdaq doing, or what is the Nasdaq not doing? Here's all four of them. I'm gonna map out the news candle for each one. I'm gonna mark out the New York session opening range for each one. So we'll look at the first 3-minute candle. It's here. Russell, all these red boxes here is that was the Russell. The last one was the Dow. And then let's look at the Nasdaq. So what are you seeing there, Coach Paul?
Well, the Nasdaq when New York opened initially had some urgency to the downside. It was sold. Now there was large, like in the S&P. Which one is the S&P?
The top left.
Top left. That first 3 minutes held, and it's whatever's holding the Nasdaq back. I actually don't watch the stocks, so something's going on in the Nasdaq. And now let's look at Rusty.
A bottom right.
That had a huge range that held, and took some time and continued higher. And then the Dow. Dow did not fool around. That was the bottom left.
Bottom left. Yep.
Now, someone said, why didn't I see that? Well, if we're looking at different markets, you get different reads. You have to read and react to the market you're trading if you're using the opening range breakout. Because I took the NASDAQ short, and it didn't get to my 2-to-1, but it moved pretty hard to the downside. And it looked like it was going to make new lows. Look, feel,
Yep.
not the reality, but that's what my mind was thinking. Then I looked. That's why I know this. I looked at the S&P, and it was like I should be owning that. So I took, I bought the S&P and kept my Nasdaq until I exited my Nasdaq and let the S&P go. Now that was not my plan, but reading the flow led me to that. And the S&P got a 2-to-1, and I took a 1-to-1 loss in Nasdaq. But while I'm saying it, every one of these has its own characteristics. If you're executing a plan like an opening range breakout, like we're looking at, you have to trade them as they are. And you said something earlier, not what we want it to be.
Yeah.
And just a lesson that can you can easily have that your ego gets in the way, or we see things that aren't that we want to see. Um, but with that comment from whoever made that comment, sometimes we looked at, we might have been looking at the Nasdaq and why didn't I look at the S&P?
What
Now,
market you trade?
what market are you trading? And what do you see? If I like to look at many different markets.
Right.
The first one I saw was urgency was the Nasdaq, and I sold it.
Downside.
Then I saw the S&P, and I'm like, I need to own that. And then got out of the Nasdaq with my exit that I originally put in and bought the S&P and let it go. It's an old spreaders trade, but in this instance, it was a flow trade, nothing else. But it is interesting that Nasdaq is definitely trailing. It's the weakest of the group, and it's been that way for a couple weeks.
Going for sure. Aaron just pointed out in the chat something that we look at often as well. Even in the Nasdaq, they all tagged or came pretty close to 50% of that news candle, depending on what time frame you look at, and
Mhm.
that was an area to bounce. So it's something that we look at all the time. It's something that we've talked about planning it out. And I gotta admit something, chat. I've been trading like shit recently and not following a plan. And maybe saying it out loud helps me get back to executing the plan. But what I realize is, and Coach Paul, you said it. I think we both kind of said it. Not trading what you want and trading what the market is presenting. What this shows me is that there's nothing wrong with the setup, right? There's nothing wrong with the analysis. This is analysis that we did yesterday before this number even came out. Right? And then to see it play out in real time tells me that there is nothing wrong with the setup, right? So it's my own execution and trade better. Simple as that. But yeah, Aaron, great eye that we came down to that 50% and bounced from there. If you put the anchor view up on the news candles, what does it say? Rich, you read my mind. That's exactly what I was getting ready to do. Uh, got famous and fell off. JD, I needed that. Thank you for saying that, JD. Thank you for saying that.
Uh,
That was all the motivation I needed right there. I appreciate you, JD. There we go. So the green is the anchored view up from the news.
wow, very interesting. It was to be bought. I mean, now, okay, we're looking, and then we can say, this is hindsight trading, but we're looking for patterns that are consistent. We talk about this all the time. Wait for the number to come in, the news candle. But then when the open comes up, the New York Open comes, you have an idea of not only price but volume. This is a pattern that we see in not just indices but in markets at large. It's the DNA of how markets work.
Absolutely. We got another question. We got a new trader here. Shout out to the new traders. If this is your first time watching at the buzzer, we appreciate you being here. Let us know in the chat if this is your first time viewing, and if you it's not your first time viewing, you say it is. We know who you are. Let's take a look. So, Coach Paul, the question from Matthew is, why do you guys frame out that first half an hour candle? What is that telling you? What are you looking for here?
Well, in the night session, we want to see if there's any kind of urgency of the buyers or sellers. It's a good way it anchors. That's where the trading begins, and it's more apparent in like gold and crude commodities that trade 24/7. You can get it in equities, but to me it's not as much. But it gives you an idea. This is a fresh day. It's the beginning. Listen, we're day traders. This is where the day really begins. So can we get some kind of information from that? We notice that if it breaks out of that opening half hour, it has a tendency to continue. Um, and
Coach
especially
Paul,
at night, because the volumes and the ranges are smaller. So we don't really follow a 3 or 5 minute from that point.
Coach Paul used the word there, Matthew, that some of the viewers here, they probably heard it and understood what he was talking about. Um, urgency, right? So when we say urgency, what we're looking at is you see this first 30-minute bar here, right? That's all these yellow boxes, right? So anything yellow on this chart is we go back to one chart, so it's probably easier to see. But in the S&P here, what we're calling urgency, this yellow line is VWAP attached to the beginning of the day. The earlier that VWAP leaves the range, the more urgent the price action is, right? So there's volume and price leaving that range. We're going to see a very clear example of an urgency trade in one of these other markets uh, in a little bit here, but that is what we're looking for. And even if you don't trade the overnight session, let's say you do your pre-market prep an hour before the market opens, still a good area to map out. In this case, came right back down to this daily open and bounced from there. So just a good visual target to have on your charts. Anything else you got on the equities, Coach Paul?
Yeah, on that, that's the news candle, right? Where we came back and tested the overnight low.
Yes. Yep.
Let's mark that with a 3-minute.
Uh,
Um,
on the
and
3 minute, we'll
yeah,
put
and the next one is wow, and there you go. What is that? It's a J trade.
yep, close right above the high. So once
Yeah.
we get the, yeah, and mapping out these news candles, s- to tell you a lot, right? You can really frame your entire day around how the market trades around this news candle.
All right.
Right. There was one more thing. Damn it. Okay. All right. It's okay. All right. We go on to gold. It'll come back. Got some questions here also. Let me answer these questions before we get to gold. Hey, coaches, thank you for being on the air. If you feel like it, please talk about the time buyers and sellers were caught in the markets today. Mo's approach to trading seems great, but I don't understand. Great question. Unclassifiably, where are we looking for trapped sellers? First spot sellers got trapped was right here. And what Mo is looking for is a a failure of selling, right? So to me, the easiest way, and we kind of identify this, Coach Paul, you just called it the J trade. Sellers had to push this price lower, right? We see the volume that traded in this news candle. Sellers tried to push it lower. When price, if you just think about it this way, right? Think about it from your own perspective. If you were short from 65.60, or matter of fact, let's say you were short from 65.52, just think about your emotions right now. You are happy when price does this, still happy. Maybe now you're like, oh man, I had some profits, I didn't take them, but this is still a good trade. What are your emotions when the market does this? Now, everybody, if we could assume that there were people who sold in this, when the market gets above their price and closes above and starts to push higher, how do their emotions flip if they hold on to this trade? I'm trying to hold on to it. Maybe I'm adding more. But if price continues to go against you as a seller, what eventually happens? You have to buy, right? And this is those trapped sellers. So when Mo is looking for it, I know he's looking at it on a tick chart or something like that. He's looking at something like this, right? Where we do have a push lower. And you tell me, when do the sellers fail, right? We try to find the last one. Now, what Mo is not trying to do is pick the low and high of each of these moves, right? He wants to wait, Coach Paul, until they stop, right? Because here, did sellers fail? Not yet, right? They have control of that 3 minute candle there. What about this one? Have they failed yet? Not necessarily. Same thing here. Have they failed? No. Have they failed? No. Here, I think what we're calling as sellers failed. I know Mo usually gets entries somewhere closer to the lows, but he's looking for when that momentum stops in that direction. And again, another one. When we close above that, even on a smaller scale, still a decent trade. Not as big as the news candle, but the anchor candle isn't as big either, right? It's not as much volume here not as much volume here as there is here. Anything you want to add to that, Coach Paul?
No, great job. You're good.
To throw, Paul needs more screen time. Jared says, I agree. So we're going to throw this question to Coach Paul. Oh, actually, that's not even a question. We're throwing the next one to Coach Paul. We're throwing the next five to Coach Paul. Rayhan says, new trader here as well. Had a friend put me on a Top Step Live. He's currently at work. Wondering if we can make a shout out to Graham. Shout out to Graham. Shout out to putting your friends on to great trading education. That's a good friend you have there.
Yeah,
Thank you. Oh, my drink.
send more friends.
Send more friends.
It's what we're here for. And then
Absolutely.
shout out to Graham.
Coach Paul, let's take a look at gold. Take a look at gold. What are we seeing here?
Stall. Now, I'm looking at patterns, and then, we can see a lot of things in patterns that, that we really have to be careful of. But what this pattern is what has happened to this rally. It's stalling, or it's leveling out. It's finding balance at all-time highs. So the distributions are going sideways. Um, it needs it's vulnerable for a correction, is really what I'm trying to say. It's far away from the 20 moving average. Um, it's kind of sputtering here. That doesn't mean it can't continue to go, but um, if think of yourself, if you're on a plane now, when you find the level, the pilot's going to go level it out, and you're going in a sideways direction. But when there's turbulence comes, or if the engine loses steam, it's not going to go down gently. So that analogy, we're not there yet, but it's finding balance here. Does it continue to go sideways? Well, we don't know. All we know is we saw that all-time high, the hammer candle, and we're really not reacting. We haven't recovered the buying yet. So if I'm long in a position, I'm a little nervous here. Like, okay, keep going. But it's still in an uptrend. What do you see?
Same thing. Still a market that's in an uptrend. We're holding inside that high volume candle from the blow off top day. We keep looking lower, but we're not seeing any closes lower. So balance for now. Again, this market had 2 weeks of just straight up price action. Uh, I don't know many people who can sprint a marathon, and uh, you know, gold needed to chill out for a little bit, which is fine, right? Allow the market to catch up to it. Um, And as long as we don't see, change of structure here, this is still a market that's in an uptrend. We're still holding above the prior all-time high that, was the high for 130 days. So a little bit of balance is okay. A little bit of balance. If we fall back into this range, I'm going to be sad a little bit, but gold will still present opportunities even in this range. We saw it. There was not a lack of opportunity in gold, even in this consolidation. So, uh, but I think we're going higher. It's just when. Uh, can anyone think of a catalyst, maybe next week, that could get all of these markets to do something? I'm sure.
Ponder upon that.
I
Let-
wonder. Let's take a look at the last night's open. Again, mapping out that first 30-minute handle. And
Well,
Coach
you
Wall,
didn't find any buying as we talked. This is let's map out Shanghai.
that is going to be here. The Shanghai Exchange trading gold, which I'm kinda starting to like that more as the open, and just looking at that. I was looking to buy last night, and we just never gave me a signal. Um, Sometimes it's okay to have a hypothesis, the market doesn't agree, and no trade I consider winning trades all the time. Uh, but from Shanghai, coach, that was some urgency to the downside.
Yeah, and that's what we're seeing. We're not getting that lift. Um, so let's look at where it finished. More of the 200 bar moving averages on the half hour. Now, what's going on? It's finding some turbulence in the short term. What I mean, it's starting to lose the lift a little. We're closing below the 200, regaining it. But what else is happening? The shorter term moving averages are starting to get under the 200. We're at I believe, in an inflection point. Um,
To make a decision.
make a decision here. Um, but we're going to move away from this level. Now, if we can see it, it didn't, what was today's close?
36.73 last trade right now. Settlement was
Okay.
probably somewhere
Yeah.
around there.
So the settlement, we're sitting there, settlement. Yeah. This is a little short-term turbulence for the longs. Um, we'll see if we can get a little push. I don't, when I mean to the downside, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Again, marking out some of these overnight levels. This Shanghai Open, we're looking at 9 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Sorry, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 p.m. Central Time. Uh, just look, right, and marking out some of these overnight levels. I know traders look at Asia session highs and lows and things like that. It's kind of by nature what we're doing here. Look at this response, right? Even on this crazy news spike that we got, where does it stop? Right at those Asia session, that Asia session open, right? So right there, just having some of these visual targets can help you uh, with some of your trades. I know the house account took a long today, got stopped out on this wick, maybe just a little bit too tight with that stop. But we pushed down into a minor psych level, 3650, uh, and then instant 30 points up. But what happened?
Even on a micro, it's a $300 candle.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, on a big one, it's a $3,000 candle.
Yeah. A lot of
So
risk.
it's a lot of risk. Understand if you can afford it. And once again, that was the candle after the news. There's the news candle.
Mm.
Why does it? I'm gonna say is why does this happen on big news events? Liquidity. What it means is market makers. They're not going to. They're not going to get in front of this either. So we used to in the pit. We used to call it. They put their hands down. In other words, when cross. If you were in the pit and you crossed your hands were down. You're not active. I'm not involved. So here, market makers can, well, they might have to be involved because it's part of the, instead of being 100 lot up, five, five up. Um, so what does that mean? Liquidity at these times is withdrawn because if they're sitting there doing size, they can get run over just as easy as you and I because with bigger size. So after the news, after that, we have the candle. You could almost just start from there. Not almost. This is where you start measuring.
Should start measuring, right? And similar to what we saw in the equities, right? More specifically, I guess the Nasdaq. Uh, no urgency here, right? Where we say it during the opening call all the time. Let that news candle frame your trades for the day. Uh, so now, once that news candle prints, we have a range. Maybe we don't even have this up here. Maybe we just start our day from right from that candle. What is it telling us? From what I see here, VWAP stayed a flat line in that range. Maybe I don't take this short up here, but when this VWAP continues to stay flat, right, at this point, I'm no longer looking for breakout trades unless we see some volume start to leave that range to the upside. It stayed flat the entire day. Look, every time we came up to this 3680, what did the market do? We sold it. So, you know, framing out these news candle ranges give us a ton of opportunity. We just got to be there to execute on those opportunities. And that's a 30-point candle in $30 candle in gold. So there's decent enough opportunity in that. Shout out to the gold traders that we had on fast markets this morning, Dom and Aaron trades. Aaron did catch a pretty nice long here. All right. Anything else you got on gold, Coach Paul?
That's it.
Cool. We have a decent amount of questions here. Uh, Paul H hit the like. It's not really a question here. It's just telling us that he had a great J trade on the 15-minute in gold Asia low, preempted a little. Nice trade there, Paul. You're looking at this trade right here. I think this is what Paul is talking about. That at that point was the highest volume 15-minute candle that we had on those lows. Set the low for the day, minus a couple ticks, closed above. Nice trade. Now, depending on where your stop is, you may have gotten hit on that news candle as well. Use a Coach Paul traditional 2 ATR stop. Say we got a not so great entry, 9 points. We don't get hit. Get you 2 to 1. Nice trade there, Paul.
Yeah. Uh, Paul H, hit the like.
Hit
Good
that
hint.
hit that like button. Shout out to Paul, taking information and executing on it. That is ideally what we want for all of you. And again, anything we say here is for educational purposes only, not a way to take a trade. And we're going to share how we look at the markets. But if you can take it, it helps you in your trading journey. That is what we are here to do. When I see a large order on time and sales, sometimes it shows an average price. What kind of order is that? I assume it's market, but other than that, that's a question from Billy. Said I was going to throw the next 5 questions to you, Coach Paul. I'm
Oh,
gonna throw
I'll
that
have
one
to
to
go
you.
through it
You can throw
again.
it back if you want. We can pass it back.
When we see, there it is. When I see a large order on time and sales, sometimes it shows an average price. Um, I don't see that on time and sales. Time and sales usually just shows
Exact price.
the exact price.
Yeah.
So I don't, is there an average price? I don't, that would, I don't see that. I'm not familiar with that.
The same here,
Um,
Billy. Make sure you don't have a filter on your time and sales. A filter might be, quieting out some of the filters, but it shouldn't show an average. Time and sales should literally show every execution um, that trades out there.
yeah, I started as a time and sales clerk for the exchange. My job was to take every trade in the pit that I was a pit reporter, enter every trade, like every trade. So, and the thing with time and sales is if I sell five, all right, I might get 5 1 lots on the other side of my 5 lot. That's 5 different trades. So it's showing every trade.
Yeah,
Um,
Billy had a point here. Maybe it's aggregated. I don't think the TopStep X time and sales doesn't aggregate, but if you're using a different platform, sometimes they do aggregate them. So that might be what you're seeing there. Um, but if there's no filter or anything like that, and it's just a pure time and sales like the one TopStep X, it should show every execution like Coach Paul's talking about. You had to do those by hand, Coach Paul?
Show us. You might be onto something.
I'm
We'll
asking
call
you,
it the
Coach Paul.
Billy trade.
You had to do time and sales by hand.
Oh, when I first started, yeah. And you know what? We had a lot of. If you didn't get that, if trader didn't get it in, and I didn't write it into the official journal, and timestamp it, wasn't a trade. So it was sometimes it can get pretty heated. Like then you had to go if you missed that trade. I can't just put it in. You didn't put it in, then it goes to what's called the pit committee, and it's an interesting story because if you didn't get your trade, let's say you sold you sold them for your customer. This is really important. It's the floor brokers who were held. So if I sold 5 at 7, and I didn't report it. And time at sale said the low is 8. Well,
Your trade's at 8?
yeah, you made an adjustment.
Hmm.
You had to write a check for an adjustment. Or and the other part is, let's say the customer was a stop and they shouldn't have been filled. Well, the trade's now busted, and the floor broker has to make good on that trade to get out because he has a position. Yeah, it could get very, very testy at times.
So, okay,
But
so I have so many questions about this right now, man. So I'm imagining I see videos of the trading floor, right? Where there's a bunch of people, they're just all screaming at each other, writing shit down, throwing things, punching people, pushing people around. How many time and sales clerks were there at one given time? Let's say you were
uh,
in the S&P pit. How many clerks were there?
if
Because
you were in the S&P,
one person
there
can't take
might
all those orders.
there might be 5.
So now
Yeah,
you're responsible for this set of traders over here. You're responsible for this set of
yep,
traders over here. That's how it works. Okay.
yep.
Okay.
And then there was they you might have a pit reporter was just watching. Yeah, then you'd have pit reporter just watching the spreads. Now, it's not as predominant now because the spreads, especially in financials, only rolls every quarter. But in the grains and in crude oil, a little different. It was rolling every month. There was different months trading. But the key was if it wasn't in time and sales, when you didn't report it, it wasn't a trade. It could be a very costly
It's pretty
error
crazy.
on the but I learned a lot because I had to
Sure.
watch every trade.
Yeah.
Um, then you get into a flow. You see, the buyers versus the sellers, um, brokers. Now, that experience leads me to why I love VWAP. It shows me an imbalance. It's actually an easier read than it was in the pit because to find a good trade, you have to separate the signal and the noise.
Got you.
That's why when you say, I'd say just remove the candles.
Right.
And it gives me more signal. That
That
doesn't, I
noise.
mean, that's just part of a process. But
Right.
that's why when I first saw that and I understood it, I'm like, oh, wow, I know this. It's helped me a lot. Yeah, I actually started out as a board marker
Writing down prices on the board.
with chalk and rag. I was
Uh,
18 years old. I walked on the floor. They said there was a job. I'm like, I'll do anything. Like next day, I
so
was up there. I was taught quit your talking and start chalking. So we just watched the prices. I was at the mid am, which was the secondary exchange. You watch the prices, you mark them up. The last three, you keep the high on the low.
yeah.
Um, and if you missed one, oh man, you might have something thrown at you. It was great, quite an experience.
The price. What is the price? Oh man, this is good stuff, man. Coach Paul, this is why I enjoy doing the show. We got into talking about markets chat. You guys ask questions, and then we just get to riff a little bit. Cool stuff. I partly understand why some of this was automated, and with the advance of technology, we did that. So now Coach Paul he could sit at his desk and trade. But that's pretty cool to hear. Again, what we do is built on a foundation of something, right? So it's always cool to hear those stories. All right, let's get into the urgency trade of the day, Coach Paul. Crude oil. Everyone's been talking about crude. Oh man, this market sucks. Doesn't move anywhere. Crude has been one of the best intraday trades this week, and we got another one today, Coach Paul. I'll leave this one to you. You took this trade. Tell us what you were saying.
Well, we had that rally yesterday, and we know we've been in this balanced market. We've been talked about buy low, sell high. which sounds crazy. I mean, that's a real simple. But in a balanced market, buy low, sell high works. So what is the high? We had this rally yesterday. It was a pretty good rally. All right. Then we had the evening out, but the trading started again. The new, it's a new day.
Yep.
And we open up in the first, we measure the first half an hour. There was balance here. But notice it didn't trade outside of that. And then when it did, what did it do? What happened to VWAP?
Put it lower. We started to see some volume right around 9 p.m. Central Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Time.
Mhm.
Started to see some volume pick up just
Shanghai
in,
again.
yeah, starting to trade oil in a, well, I guess there was some news. I don't know when that news came out, but about the UK not placing sanctions on Russia the same way uh, the US is, the EU. I don't
Huh.
know if that had anything to do with it. Whatever. More sellers came in here and started to push us a little bit lower. And then by the time we got into London session,
And then okay, now we frame out now. We talk about especially in commodities. We pass the book. So every 8 hours, you have the Asian, you go into Europe. Okay, let's frame out Europe,
breaking box
specifically
there
one.
now.
Yep. And they continued. And the
Accelerated here.
US, there was, it's, yeah. Now there is an imbalance that was pushed through. Now that just doesn't happen every night, but when it does, it's kind of special.
Yep.
Um, but again, just reading that, I actually was short with being short calls that I had, and I added to them.
Nice trade.
But where did we go back to? The
Range to
bottom.
range.
Yeah, if we look at the daily, we could see the same thing happen tomorrow. I don't know, but I would see it by measuring the first half an hour. See, we're back, really just back to the bottom of that range we've been in.
Great trade though. This is, we're talking about from this breakout. This is $1.45 in crude oil. It's $1,450 with a mini, $150 with a micro, and is it going anywhere on a higher time frame? It isn't, but these are consistent almost every day. There is at least a dollar move in crude oil that you could have the potential to take a part of. Now, do you have to catch the whole dollar? You don't. Catch 50% of it. That is a pretty good trade though. So I don't know what it takes to get crude out of this range, but it's a decent. It's almost like what we saw in gold, right? Obviously, the ATR is not as big, but we saw gold sit in a consolidation for 130 days. Now, you're a breakout momentum trader. You're looking for trends. It's probably not where you want to be, but intraday, a ton of great trades here, Coach Paul.
Yeah, and that was the trade, the trade of the day.
Seriously,
Maybe we should do a section like that.
trade of the day. Trade of the day. Definitely do that. Liam says this is a great segment. Liam, we appreciate you. We appreciate that. I think it's a great segment too. That's why I'm here every day. I
Yeah.
think it's a great one. Stuck to NQ because I get the most bang for my buck with a point. Yeah, and that's that's what a lot of traders say, right? Hey, the Nasdaq, the pace of it. I've heard Coach Vince even more so talking about trading the Nasdaq, and I think all last year since we've been working with Coach Vince, he's been a a Dow trader, the S&P. He's even trading the Nasdaq a little bit. Coach Paul, you do as well. Yeah, that pace of the Nasdaq, but then you look at it today. What pace was the Nasdaq in? The Nasdaq was stuck in neutral while everything else was moving. Do you want to switch markets all the time to chase the movement? Probably not, right? Because it's kind of hard to catch a rabbit. But oh, when there's a market that's showing that it has the potential to move, that can be the trade. Uh, all right. Any other markets we want to talk about, Coach Paul? I think we got some. Actually, we got a question here from Dread Daily. Uh, when we see an extended move in New York session, is it true that 80% of the time some of the imbalance is recovered in Asia? Great job, by the way. That's a stat, Dread. So I don't know if I can say yes, but I guess what you're looking at, uh, Coach Vince in the chat. What's up, Coach Vince? So back, I think this is a question back to the equities. If we see an extended move in the New York session, we're gonna have to go to the S&P for that. We get 80% of the time some of the imbalance is recovered.
Okay.
Right.
Um, some I'd like to get a little more specific on the sum of the imbalance. But I would reframe it or look at it this way. If we have an extended movement like we had today, now frame out the first half an hour or 15-minute candle, whatever. Um, Give it a little more time than the usual 5 minute or less. And if you see a breakout of that, I don't know what the percentage is, but you are going to get the first part of the equation that you're looking for, if that makes sense. Then you have to make a decision. How much am I willing to risk? The way we look at it is if it's going to work, it shouldn't make a new high.
Right.
Measure that, or I'll look at it 2 ATRs. Is it worth it? Now, if it begins to go, okay, what what's the reward? Where is 50% of that? What is and these are things that you can piece together as a trader. But the first, that's why we look at when we were talking about the opening. Let's see how it now if it keeps flipping, then take a small loss. It's not going to work. And that was the price of entry. Anything to add on that, coach?
Uh, I mean, yeah, does it happen 80% of the time? I think one of the things I'm trying to think of like what I would look at here. So let's look at these daily candles, right? And these are not just New York session, right? We're looking at the full day. How many times do we see, and there's going to be a lot of overlap here, how many times do we see the market come back to 50% of, or even take out a prior day low of the prior day's range, right? So could you look at that for the potential? You could, right? It did it today. Today came down to under 50% of yesterday's range, and we bounced from there, or we opened under it. But I think going in with saying, hey, we had an extended day, so we should see a reversal, kind of keeps you uh, it kind of frames your trades in a certain way, right? That would tell me that you're only looking for shorts tomorrow. Now, could shorts play out? They could, but that kind of pulls. I think it pulls you away a little bit from reading what the market is saying and focus on what you're looking for, which may not always be such a bad thing. But if what you're looking for doesn't align with what the markets say, where do you limit your risk and say, okay, I'm wrong on that idea? So it definitely could happen. I don't know what those stats are. It'd be interesting to know, but it could happen. Um, Anything else you have, Coach Paul, that we want to go over? I think we got to all the questions.
Um, no, I think that's it. I don't want to overextend anyone.
Yeah.
Want to learn what I will say before we go. We just talked about if you have that stat now, which is a good stat. I don't know if it's true or not. 80%. I would. My initial reaction is, yeah, that's probably true. Now, the next thing as a trader, you have to create the scenario. Where would that start?
Right.
What kind of setup am I looking for in at the start? And then you have to frame out your risk reward because sometimes it's like, well, it's got to go, and you could have the right idea and over leverage and two trades and you're done. But going through, take that, watch that first half an hour, 15 minutes maybe, and start crafting a plan. With that, get some rest. And remember, tomorrow's Friday after speaking of an extended day, after we had the big news and it's Friday, I'm gonna get to you my expectation. I don't expect much, at least in the equities.
Genius Genie had a question about Hoag's criteria for failed upside auctions. Hoag is going to be doing another group coaching session tomorrow. Genius Genie, I'm going to send that question over to him so he can answer that for you during group coaching tomorrow. Uh, is Hoag looks at those failed upside and downside auctions. He would be great at explaining that tomorrow. Uh, Speaking of tomorrow, Coach Paul said it. Tomorrow is Friday. We do have Michigan sentiment is probably the biggest number on. It's a prelim number, but Michigan sentiment probably the biggest number to look forward to tomorrow. Also, if you're an ag trader, WASD WASD report tomorrow, 11
Oh,
a.m. Central Time. I would not hold a position into a WASD report in any of the ags. You can see what we have here: wheat, soybeans, cotton, corn. I would not hold any any trades in any of the markets into that. 'Cause that is a, that's CPI, that's PPI for the grains and the ags.
combined.
So you say you're buying?
No,
Oh,
combined.
combined. Yeah, yeah,
It's
right,
all those combined into a
right.
it's
So watch out for
it's
that for sure.
it's the one report that matters in those ag markets.
Absolutely. So do not hold a number. Coach Paul, you got a coach hat. Coach Paul, you got a request to wear your sun hat tomorrow, Friday hat. We got a little bit
Alright,
more, a little bit more sun. I don't have a bring my hat with me. I might have a hat here. I don't know if I
well,
moved. I don't know if it made the move.
I need a sun hat.
Oh,
It can't be burning that
right.
plum though. So I will wear it. I have it right there.
We
Friday
go.
special.
Very special. We have Coach Robert doing a class in Discord right now. After him, Coach Hoop, and then Coach Ray and Coach Vince, 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. Central Time. Coach Dakota tonight with slow markets. We'll see if he has a guest on. I'm not sure if he does tonight, but Coach Dakota with slow markets. And then we have Aaron with the London Open. No Euro trade tomorrow with D because tomorrow is Friday. We will see you back for the opening call. How often is that report? Yeah, it's every month. Every month of um, but thank
Yeah.
you everyone for joining. Hit that like button if you haven't done so already on the way out. We appreciate you all being here and we will see you all tomorrow. Bye.